What is up, folks? Welcome to the latest episode of the Harold McBasketball Show. I'm your gracious host, as always, Harold McBasketball. Super excited to be back with my co-host, I Know Ball Paul. Paul, how are you?
I'm doing well. It has been a while. I don't know how long, probably over a month.
Yeah, it might be getting close to like 6 weeks, 2 months right now. We had some heartbreaks in our fantasy basketball seasons, so we've been taking a slight detox to mourn for our teams that we both loved very much.
We
But we're
both,
back on it now.
yeah, we both lost. I lost in the first round. Harry lost in the
Yes.
semifinals.
Yep.
Both to Tim.
Fucking brutal. I know Tim's like leaving Jamal Murray in when he's out for a game. Like, come on, man. Come
Wait,
on.
I think it was announced too late. I think.
That's probably what it is. It's like I feel like as of recently, it's like we're definitely kind of getting to the point of the year where guys will kind of get rested at the last minute and kind of just screw you over. So there's been a bit of that. So we won't fault Tim too much, but we are pulling for him because I feel like it makes my defeat feel a little bit better if I can say that I lost to the champ. So we're pulling for you, Tim.
I'd be happy if Ross won. I'm not picking a side, I'd say.
I,
Uh,
I'm with that too. I'm because new I think a new champ is always good, and both guys have amazing teams.
yeah.
Um, they draft like the right guys on the right teams. Like they all have like really good players on really good teams. Like they're all playing hard, and I think these probably are like the two. I think it's the right teams to be in the finals right now. So excited for either of them. And this way you don't need to ship out the trophy. So big win for you.
I know. I'm hyped that I don't have to ship it to Houston. Um, but yeah, Tim first year like having his own team, that would be crazy. And Ross has been, a great fantasy owner for years and years. So I kind of want to see Ross win it in a sense because it's been such a long time coming for him. And Tim, it's like, all right, first year, like I don't want to give him his first year. He needs to earn it a bit more. I'm
Yeah, and
still rooting for you.
Ross is in a pretty cozy spot right now. He's up not like nothing very early, but he does have a cheeky like 200 point lead right now, which is pretty decent coming to the end of the first week. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We're not here to talk fantasy basketball. We're here to talk actual basketball. Continue our detox. Things are super interesting right now. Every team has about 10-ish games left until the end of the regular season.
Yeah.
And the standings are really interesting right now. We've got some teams that are like really close to each other in the standings at the moment. Some teams that are really on fire right now. Some teams that are really sucking right now and are putting themselves in tough spots for the first round. So tons to talk about. Um, I was going to ask you where you want to start, but I want to start with the Rockets because the Rockets are amazing and they've been super good. And it's been really awesome to watch them recently. They're currently on an 11 game win streak,
Yeah.
notably without Alperen Şengün. Jalen Green has been incredible, averaging 36 and 4. I'm going to take a mini victory lap on that as I predicted the Jalen Green breakout. I thought it was going to come sooner in the year, but still, he's been absolutely incredible to watch. And they're now within one game of Golden State, who's been struggling all year. And they could get that last play-in tournament spot, which would be super interesting. I think I'd rather see them there than the Lakers or Warriors, who have been a little gross to watch all season.
Yeah. We should take a moment and say you called it, you're vindicated. Um, I was not huge on the Jalen Green hype train, but I think I always said, you know what, Harry, I see how much you are backing him, and for me, you validating him like that kind of makes me not want to rule him out. And I think over this 11 game win streak, like you said, he's averaging 30 something points, and he's just the way he's doing it is absolutely insane. The Rockets are like flying up and down the court. Their defense looks great. They're just playing a totally different brand of basketball with Jalen Green leading them, and it's like super exciting. I love their little beef with the Warriors and that fight for the play-in spot. And
Yeah, they play each other soon too. I think within the next 3 games they play the Warriors, so that's going to be
yeah,
massively important. That could potentially be for the 10th seed.
and they played each other the other night, I think, and the Warriors did win. Or am I making that up?
Yeah, that was a while ago though, because that would be when Şengün was still playing. Because obviously the Rocks are on an 11 game win streak, so like they haven't played the Warriors during the win streak.
True. Okay,
Um,
yeah. No,
yeah, no,
ignore
I'm
me.
looking at yeah, I don't think they've played in a little while, but they're due for a rematch, and yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's because Draymond was talking shit, and so I figured they played, but I don't think they did. Um, yeah, then you've got the Lakers in the mix. But yeah, I'm pulling for the Rockets, for sure. The Warriors are super interesting too because in a sense, like their pieces are playing pretty well. Like Kaminga's still doing all right. I feel like Draymond's been pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, and like Clay's been playing fine off the bench. Like he's still like a little bit streaky, but the 3-point percentage is still there. Like he's still hitting his shots on pretty high volume. So they've still been good. It's like it's tough to really like pinpoint exactly what the issue with them is. It's like
Like
I don't
Steph's
know. I think
just not
yeah,
Steph's
like
not ridiculous.
yeah, and I think there is just like a lack of like the super high end talent at this point where they do have like Steph, who's still like a very elite player. Um, and like Kaminga's been good, Clay's been fine, Draymond's been fine, but like they don't really have like a second or third star anymore. Like at
Yeah.
this point, Steph is really the only star on that team. So I think they just lack firepower, especially when teams can really just hone in on Steph, double team him essentially every play. And you do have guys who are still just like really sucking, like Andrew Wiggins, and it feels like they just get nothing out of those minutes, but he still gets like 25 to 30 minutes per game. So yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it's all there. You've kind of seen it all season. I don't really see them turning it around. So I think either they get in at the 10th seed and lose to the Lakers, or ideally, I think the Rockets get in and make it way more exciting. Because the Rockets are on fire right now. I think they would at least be an exciting team at the 10th seed. It's really tough to get in through the play-in, but I think they would have the best chance.
Yeah. So the Rockets currently sit at 11th, a game behind the Warriors, and then you have the Lakers at 9. Yeah, and and you got the Kings, who kind of safely have that 8th spot, it feels, but
For sure, for sure. But yeah, Kings are in a tough spot. Before we kind of move up the standings in the West, because there's tons of interesting stuff. One other thing I want to hit on with the Rockets, I think is like super interesting, is kind of like something that you alluded to, the change in play style for the team, like after Şengün went down. Because obviously, like Şengün's been amazing, but he does have this like slower play style. So like when they play through him, it's more so like set it up down low, see what he can do. He'll make some passes out of that. Whereas he goes down now, Jabari Smith slides down to the center spot. You've got Amin Thompson now playing power forward, super quick, super fast paced player. Jalen Green is running the offense now. Fred VanVleet shooting the lights out. Dylan Brooks is still scrappy as ever. Like this team is just like super tough now, super fast paced, one of the most dangerous transition teams in the league. They're super fun to watch now. It is kind of this interesting thing where it's like when they do get Şengün back, like how do they want to play? Because I want them to still be able to like maintain this like fast paced offense and high volume for Jalen Green. But I'll also like bringing back Şengün because I think ultimately like the best version of this team does have Şengün starting at center.
yeah, I make no mistake, I think Sengun is still the best player on this team. He has the high ceiling on this team. But all of a sudden, I think Jalen Green, his stock has skyrocketed. And the thing is, the way they play with through Jalen almost makes more sense with the pieces they have as such a young athletic team. Um, so it's like,
Yeah, because
go ahead.
yeah, yeah, because they're not really a team that's like built like the Nuggets where there's like all these shooters around Şengün. It's more so like these just like other than Fred VanVleet, it's all just these like crazy cutters and athletes and guys who just want to get out and run. So it is kind of a different assembly. So it's interesting, but I think Ime's done a great job with this team. So I think he's the right guy to figure out how to make all these pieces work together.
Man, it's since the offseason, I feel like we've really honed in on the Rockets as such an interesting team, and they've lived up to it.
Totally.
And I pray they make the play in, and I pray they make it out of the play in because yeah, they're so much fun. And yeah, you mentioned Amen Thompson. He's just been awesome. You know, he's averaging. I saw some stat where like the first 25 and 11 games since like Yao Ming or something. It's just
Yeah, like it's insane. Him and Asar are like ridiculously talented rebounders, and I don't really understand it because they're both like 6'6", but they're not like stat padding with their rebounds. Like they're just like insane athletes with crazy wingspans. And they just get all the rebounds. Like they get more rebounds than like they get more rebounds per 36 than like most centers in the league. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand it. They're absolutely special athletes. And I love both of them. I think they're both incredible.
yeah, they're still a bit like they make me scratch my head with just how they pop off, and then they have like pretty bad like runs of being extremely inefficient, and you see the how the lack of shooting affects them. But it seems like one brother pops off while the other one is struggling, and then it flips. And right
Yeah,
now,
they're never they're
we're
never popping off at the same time. Yeah, it's always one or the other. But I'm starting to see the vision though. Like they're both these like super unique Swiss Army knife type players, and I think the way the Rockets are using Amen right now is absolutely perfect. We're kind of sliding him at that power forward spot, so you're not really as expecting as much shooting out of him, and he can just do everything he does, just like make the game messy, like play good defense, get rebounds, run in transition. I think that's super valuable. So I think even if the shot doesn't come along, they're going to be incredible. And if the shot does come along, then they're going to be like absolute stars because they are fascinating to watch.
yeah. Fred VanVleet's also been incredible over this stretch.
So
Um,
good. And I think he's like really, embraced his role as kind of like this secondary guy, but still like, super high volume, great shooting, great like glue guy to get in there because like his shooting's great. His pace is good. Like he can slow down the offense when they need to. Um, Great passer. Like he's just like the perfect point guard for this team to pair next to Jalen Green and kind of, be another passer, with Şengün.
yeah, I'm looking. He's averaging like 18 and 9 over this 10 game stretch. So he's
Yeah.
paired so nicely with Jalen.
Yeah. And if all this comes together, like a big three of Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, and Şengün is like really good. Like that is definitely one of the better big threes in the leagues. Like that's super exciting. And it's also just like interesting now looking back at the draft because all of a sudden it's like where would you take Jalen Green? Like do you take him over Cade? I think so at this point. Like over Scotty? I think so. I think like Şengün and Jalen Green are back to being like the top two guys in that draft.
I know. I feel like we're gonna have to do a 2021 redraft every offseason for the next few years.
Every year we're gonna have to do it. Every year it's gonna happen.
Man, because I've touched back on that episode a few times, and it is crazy how, I think I was particularly hot on guys like Josh Giddey, and I was particularly cold on guys like Scotty Barn, and now, my opinions have flipped. Jalen Green all of a sudden is like, yeah, where do you take him? Kaminga's in that mix, Franz. I took Sengun number one. Still feel happy about that, but we'll have to revisit that for sure because yeah, the 2021 draft I think is so iconic and mysterious, and it's still so
Yeah,
up.
I know. Yeah, and it's also just so good. Like it feels like there are like 10 guys who are like legit incredible NBA players. So like, it's like we're kind of like splitting hairs here when we're like, oh, does Jalen Green now go up to like the second or third pick? But it's like Cade is still amazing, Mobley's still amazing, Barnes is incredible. I was also too low on him. Giddy's really fallen off, but I kind of envisioned the Thunder moving off of him at some point in the future, and I think his stock would go back up. Um, Kaminga's looked like phenomenal this year. Like your Kaminga take has aged really well. Franz is in this draft too, right?
Yeah,
Like Franz has been incredible. Trey Murphy's looked really good this year. Like this is just an incredible draft.
yeah, we're gonna revisit it for sure this offseason, and it's gonna be, I think, just as hard as last time. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think so too. I think another year it's like there's always a little more clarity, but things are going to shake up a lot, and then I'm sure the next season after things are going to change. So I don't know. We'll see. And I like the playoffs will have an impact on it. Like we'll kind of see some guys are doing when playoffs come around, although a lot of them won't be in the playoffs, but I'd say more so for the Rockets guys, that's gonna be really interesting. So we'll run it back. But yeah, no, super interesting storylines with the Rockets and their young guys right now.
Sengun, when is he expected to come back? I assume in a couple weeks towards the end of the regular season.
Yeah, I believe he should be back for playoffs. I think he's already starting to ramp up a little bit right now, which is good because obviously like when he went down with the injury, there were definitely some fears that, whenever you see a big guy go down with like a serious knee injury, you kind of assume the worst.
Yeah.
But I think it shouldn't be too bad. Yeah. Yeah. They diagnosed him like a grade three ankle sprain and a bone bruise in his knee. And yeah, they say he's probably going to miss the remainder of the regular season, but potentially back for playoffs.
Yeah. I was watching that game and it was kind of horrific and my heart dropped, and I'm glad it was a sprain. I mean, sprains can really suck, but obviously it's not anything torn. So
Yeah, hopefully they get him back for the play-in, but obviously like they might need to, depending on where he's at with his journey, like it might be one of those things where they're like, maybe just sit out the play-in, and if somehow we get into the eighth seed, then you come back. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does just end up missing it, but I hope he comes back because I love Şengün, obviously. Like, he's incredible.
Yeah, and like you said, it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic with Green, because now it's undeniable that Green deserves all the touches. Not all, he deserves his fair share of touches.
Yeah, it feels like Green should at least be like the top scorer for this team. Like, I don't know how the usage splits are going to look between Green and Şengün, but when they're all back, it was kind of like Şengün top scorer, then Van Fleet, then Green. Feels like it should probably be Green 1, Şengün 2, Van Fleet 3. But we'll see. We'll see how they do it.
Yeah, no. He's such like a ball of energy, the step backs, the
Step
layups.
backs are crazy.
Yeah, no.
I think he's one of the best finishers in the league. Like, when you watch the layups that he's capable of finishing, it's just like his hang time's insane.
Yeah.
The way he can get the ball off the backboard. He's had like tons of like ridiculous, just like double pump layups and like up and under layups. Goes up super strong. He's so athletic that I feel like he always gets his hands over the defender's hands, even if it's like a tall center. Like, he's ridiculous. The mid range looks great. The fadeaways, the step back threes, as you mentioned, are ridiculous. His transition play is great. Like, he's just a very complete scorer now, which I love to see.
Yeah. There was kind of a funny trend on TikTok just hating on Michael Jordan and finding clips of him not being able to.
Oh yeah. We're done with the '90s. We're done with the '90s.
And yeah, I seen like a few clips of like Jalen Green finishing a layup, literally, and they're like, Michael Jordan never did anything like this. No disrespect to
Oh
Michael,
my God.
he's probably,
Yeah,
still,
he's one of our listeners. So yeah.
yeah. But it's true, like, yeah, what Jalen Green is doing is out of this world. But
Yeah, we could talk all day about Jalen, but let's transition. Are there any other teams or players you're intrigued by right now?
because
Playoff predicaments, perhaps?
I just want to touch on it like super quickly because it doesn't have playoff implications, but just Wemby, obviously.
Yes.
But it's just like what he's doing on a night to night basis is insane. And now the Spurs are like they upset the Knicks the other night, and just the way in which
Sick overtime game. 61 from Brunson, 40 and 20 from Wemby. Wemby hits like a dagger from 3 feet beyond the 3-point line in overtime. Just absolutely ridiculous.
unbelievable. I think he's already a top, like, dare I say, 5 player in the league. Just what he does is mind blowing. And I don't know. He's such a cool character. There's not enough good things I can say about him and the Spurs and how much, I don't care that he's the most, overhyped or, just hyped player in the league. He's my favorite player. He is, I don't know. I just feel blessed to witness what that guy does on a night to night basis. And yeah, no, just big shout out Wemby. Insane.
Yeah, he's been fascinating to watch this year. I actually had him in my notes too. I was like, we have to talk about Wemby because he's just been so good from everywhere, and just like ridiculous build, obviously with his size. Like, I think he's averaging like 3.5 blocks per game right now. Like, clearly he's like a future depoy. But then the offense is also like ridiculous. Like, I remember seeing a highlight of him from probably a week ago where he like absolutely like volleyball spikes this ball into the hardwood for a block, runs down the court and maybe finishes one of like the most insane alley-oops I've ever seen, where I think he catches it at his waist and then dunks it from like
Yeah.
probably like halfway from the free throw line or something. He can just do it all. He's like the complete package. And what I had written down is like a classic debate is always like when you're choosing a young guy, if you could start a franchise right now, who are you picking? Like, the answer has always been Luka for like the last couple of years, but I think Wemby's in the debate now. It's like, who are you taking, Wemby or Luka? And everyone else is out of it. Like, you're not even considering guys like SGA, Halliburton, Anthony Edwards. Like, these guys don't get into the conversation at this point. It's either Wemby or Luka. And it feels like a coin flip right now. Like, I don't know who I would pick. I would actually consider Wemby here just because of his defensive upside and kind of his upside everywhere. Like, we just have not seen a player like this before ever.
Yeah. And it feels like he's not injury prone. He feels like really like a godly figure, like what he does.
Truly, maybe the greatest human of all time.
I've never seen anything like it. The way he can move, how flexible he is. I saw a stat where he's like the most efficient step back shooter amongst big men. So that's not, but still, I mean, the efficiency now is going up, and it's like this kid is 19. This kid is fucking 19. Like, Yeah, no, like
Yeah, yeah, and he's not even playing that many minutes right now, and he's already like just like pure stats, like one of the best players in the league. And I think he's playing under 30 minutes a night. I think it's like 29 point something. So like when that gets up to like, 35, 36 per night, like it's only gonna get better. I'm seeing if I can actually pull up his per 36 for the year right now because it's gonna
gonna
be
be scary.
ridiculous to look at.
I think he's averaging like 4 blocks in the last 10, and yeah, like you said, limit like kind of limited minutes. And
Yeah, yeah. His per 36 right now would be 26 points per game, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4.2 blocks, which is ridiculous. Because I remember like when Kessler came into the league and he was averaging like 4 blocks per 36, I was like, this guy's gonna be a problem. But the thing about Kessler is like that's kind of all he brings is like blocks and rebounds. And like Wemby has the same defensive impact, but then is also like an insanely efficient 26 points per 36 scorer with like good passing instincts, runs the floor really well, shoots the ball really well. He just does everything. He's ridiculous. He
yeah,
does everything as well as like anybody else in the league, and it's ridiculous.
yeah. All right, Momo. My cat is singing. Yeah, no, Wemby. Just write him down as the GOAT first, ballot Hall of Fame. I am so all in on Wembanyama.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
it's already done. Yeah, it's good. My final note for that is gonna be it's gonna be very interesting to see what the Spurs now do in the draft
yeah,
coming up because I know they're projected to probably have like anywhere from like picks like 3 to 5 probably, and there's some interesting guys like it's this like the draft is stacked with really good foreign prospects, which I think is like hilarious and go figure for the Spurs. So I feel like they're just gonna like land another like really interesting foreign prospect to pair with him. There's another guy coming out of France. His name's I forget his name, but it's like
yeah.
Zachary something. Let me see if I can figure it out. I'll give him a shout out.
Couple
Yeah,
Frenchies.
it's Zachary. It's like Zachary Risache, I think. I don't know. You're the Frenchman. You can probably pronounce it better than I can. But he looks awesome. He's like this like 6'9" sniper. And right now he's projected to go to the Spurs, and if the Spurs can get him, like I think it'd be really interesting. I don't think he's like this like insanely high ceiling player, but he kind of gives me shades of like Franz Wagner, where he's like this really good shooter, solid passer as well. You know, has some good moves when he's kind of going to the hoop. So I think he'd be like a really interesting addition to the Spurs. And I think they need to just try to get good as soon as possible because like Wemby's clearly awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And they have a lot of guys that respectfully should not be getting the minutes they do. I mean, we
Yeah, who's like the who's
like
who's the small forward on their team right now that's kind of been a bit of a dumpster fire?
Champagne or whatever.
No,
Keldon Johnson, no.
Keldon Johnson, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think Kellen Johnson's a fine player, but I just don't love the fit on like where the Spurs are going right now. But like Vassell's been great, so it's like I think they got something like Vassell Wemby right now. So if they can get like one more good prospect in the draft this year, I think I've got some ammo to make some trades in the future. So like maybe they can like upgrade the point guard position. That would be nice. And yeah, I think they can be pretty much. I think they can be really good really soon if they just decide to start trying and play Wemby more minutes. Because the second he's playing like 35 minutes per game, they're gonna be really hard to beat.
Yeah, undoubtedly. And yeah, again, his rookie year, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah, yeah, like ridiculous. Ridiculous. We're saying he's like maybe a top 5 player in his rookie year, but yeah, he's just that good.
yeah. Where do they sit in the standings? I mean, obviously not gonna make the playoffs.
They
Oh,
are. They're currently last in the West, which is
oh wow.
a very impressive tank job considering their team is undoubtedly more talented than the Jazz, Grizzlies, and Trailblazers right now.
And so why aren't they gonna get a top three pick? Is there
Well, it's just like so tough to compete with how bad the Wizards and Pistons are right now. They're just their tanking is next level. Like I think they still have like 6 or 7 wins over the Pistons and Wizards. But like given the lottery, like it's not impossible that they could move up to like the second and or first overall pick, something like that.
don't
But
they have
I feel
like
like
the
they're
same odds or something like that? I don't
what's
know.
up?
I thought like the bottom five teams have the same odds of getting the first pick or something like
Oh
that.
yeah, I think you're right about that actually. So yeah, I guess anywhere between like 1 through 5, they could definitely land, which would be interesting. I guess I kind of feel like their lottery luck might be done after winning the Wembanyama sweepstakes. That would be ridiculous if they got the number 1 overall pick again, but it's possible. It's also a draft where I don't think the first overall pick matters that much because there's not like a clear cut number 1 overall guy. So if you can pick anywhere from the top five and kind of have your pick of the lottery players, I think that's all you really need.
All right. What shall we discuss next? We've spent 25 minutes gushing over Jalen Green and Wemby, which I feel like we've done since the preseason. So
Yeah, but like deservingly so. Like I think that's huge to talk about. I know we're gonna have part two of this like relatively soon, so I'll
yeah,
do a smaller topic, a for fun topic.
sweet.
Um, Obviously, I think the biggest storyline in the league right now is the showdown between Wizards and Pistons, one of our most
No.
controversial takes of the year, seeing which one of them actually ends up being the worst team in the league. I was very sold that the Pistons were going to beat out the Wizards. You thought the Wizards were going to beat out the Pistons. And as of now, they're within one game of each other. The Pistons very briefly overtook the Wizards and are now one game back from them. Um, so we'll see. We'll see. They're within one game of each other with about 10 games left. So the tankathon is fascinating right now, and I think my Pistons are gonna figure it out.
Yeah. Um, I kind of said that after the trade deadline that I felt that the bet was in a sense off, but I'm willing to see it through, and I still think the Wizards at this point will finish ahead of the Pistons. But it is kind of hilarious because um I I didn't think the Wizards were going to be good at all. I knew the Pistons were going to be awful, but I was like, oh, Poole, interesting, Kuzma. No, they are so abysmally, catastrophically, disgustingly bad. 14 wins is crazy. Like in my
So
mind, like
bad.
Tyus Jones, Poole, Kuzma, some other interesting pieces, but yeah, they're so garbage that I could see the Pistons surpassing them with some of their young talent, but for the sake of this debate, I'll keep the Wizards ahead of them. And I have
Yeah, I
that
don't
one
want
game lead, so
yeah, I don't want to spend any more time on these two teams than we just did. Um, but yeah, we'll kind of see. I thought the Pistons would be a little bit better because I thought they had some viable pieces with like Duran and Cade, but no, they're garbage. They're very bad, and a lot of their prospects haven't panned out other than those two. So we'll see. We'll
maybe
see. We'll touch base again on that at like the end of the year and see who prevails.
just because we have a few minutes left, I kind of want to hear what you think of just Cade overall because you did mention that like now maybe you would swing Jalen Green and just having rostered him in fantasy the whole year and seeing him up close, just how do you feel about him? And yeah, I gotta take it away because I am interested what you have to say about him.
Yeah, I'm still super enthralled by Cade Cunningham. Like I think he's still an awesome prospect. The only thing that I thought is like I just thought he was gonna have a better scoring year because he essentially has like the keys to this team. The shot looks really good. He's a big guy, he can hit the three. He's got like a pretty good post game. He knows how to use his body, passes really well. But yeah, the efficiency just hasn't quite gotten there yet. And like after seeing like how explosive of a scorer Jalen Green is, I just think he's got a higher ceiling now with what his scoring can be. Because it does feel like Jalen Green could be one of the best scorers in the league right now, and I just haven't quite seen that out of Cade yet. So it's like all of a sudden, like I feel like the ceiling for Cade might be a guy who's like 24 points per game, but maybe like 8 or 9 assists, 5 or 6 rebounds, something like that. And then with Jalen Green, it's like, if he really gets the keys, like maybe it's like 28 points per game. But like with like less rebounds and assists. And I don't know, I just think there's more value with the scoring that Jalen Green can bring. Especially how explosive he is. Because like Jalen Green can go off for 40 any night. And it feels like Cade's just like not like that. I don't think he has the same scoring upside as Jalen Green, which is why, I think I am higher on Green as a prospect now. But I still think Cade Cunningham is a very blue chip prospect. And if we redrafted, he would probably still be like third overall or something. Like I think it would probably be like Shangoon, Green, Cade, maybe Jalen Green one now. I don't know. We'll talk in the offseason. I might talk myself into Jalen Green one if this keeps up. But yeah, that's kind of how I see it now.
Okay, yeah, because yeah, Cade, it's tough to kind of see where he's going, but he's still so young and what he's
The
doing
team's
is
also so bad.
impressive. But like you said, with the keys to the offense, I almost expected a tiny bit more, but on paper,
Yeah.
oh, it's
Yeah,
awesome.
and there have been like some kind of like unsuspected like issues that have like arisen where it's like I thought his rebounding would be better because he's like 6'7". I thought he'd get like 7 rebounds a game or something like that and be this like triple double threat. But he very rarely gets triple doubles. Like his rebounding like took a hit this year. Big part of that is like Duran just like grabs all the rebounds. The same with Asar. but I think he's probably only averaging like 4 rebounds a game or something, which is like a little surprising for someone his size. And then the turnovers have been like a big problem. Like he'll get like, 7 or 8 assists a game, but I'll usually be accompanied with 4 or 5 turnovers. So it's like, all right, like what is really the value of these assists if these turnover numbers are going to be so high? So I still really like him as a prospect, but I think he's got things to clean up, and I think Green all of a sudden looks a lot more polished. So like for Cade, it's like we need to see the efficiency get better. We need to see the turnovers come down. And I think his aggressiveness just needs to go up on offense. Like he should probably should be shooting it more, and he's not.
Yeah, he's definitely not a super explosive scorer. He's very methodical and uses the pick and roll, and that Pistons team doesn't have much spacing, which I think affects the turnovers. But
Yeah.
at the same time, yeah, you see how easily he can get his points, um, versus Cade, who kind of has to have things more set up for him. But the mid range looks great and awesome. Anyway, let's part two it, and then maybe we talk the race for first place
Yes.
in the
Yes.
West.
I kind of want to, yeah, let's talk about that. And let's also kind of talk about like the mess in the middle of it. Cause there are a bunch of teams also in the middle of the West who are within like one team of each other. So I think the West is kind of the rest of the video as the East seems to be um,
Yes.
essentially set with their standings.
Alrighty, be right back. He does not enjoy being picked up.
Yes. Guillermo, welcome. Say something to the fans for us.
He's annoying, but I love him.
Oh, great shot there, Guillermo. Thank you for that. Thank you.
All right.
Showing the
And the
fans
thing
what
with
they want.
cats, man, they'll just put their ass in your face. But
Oh my God. All
man.
right, well we're back for part two with special guest Guillermo. And we're gonna be talking West standings. Let's start with the top right now. So right now we have Timberwolves, Thunder, Nuggets, all essentially tied for first place with 51 wins. Um, there are, I think the Nuggets have like one more loss than the others, but they're all essentially tied. And it's gonna be super interesting. Initial thoughts, Paul. Like, how do you think these three teams are gonna fall when it comes to the end of the season?
I like don't know. The West
Me
is
neither.
truly perplexing. I think maybe next video we will really break down. I mean, when the matchups are set, obviously we'll do our predictions for the playoffs. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's so up in the air. I think the Nuggets are. No, I don't know. Any team could finish first. Any team could finish first, man. The Timberwolves have looked awesome. Anthony Edwards is so incredible. I think the Wolves are going to make a deep playoff run. I think they'll get at least to the West semifinals. Maybe I think the conference finals. I don't think they'll make the finals. Um, the Nuggets are still my favorites. Um, the Clippers as well, despite kind of sucking recently. I just have faith in that squad and their coaching and just the talent on that team. But yeah, as far as the standings, I can't give you an answer. I don't know which of these three teams is going to finish first, second, and third. They're all
Yeah, it's so tight right now to where it might just come down to whoever has a more favorable schedule, whoever cares more about it. Yeah, as you mentioned, like Timberwolves have been super impressive, especially with Cat injured. It kind of like validates how good this team is, how well coached they are, how cohesive they are. Because it was, I think it would have been easier for them to kind of drop off that third spot without Cat. They lost like a really important player there, but Edwards has stepped up. Gobert has had like an absolutely revitalized season where his numbers are essentially the same as they were when he was playing on Utah during his best year. So he is as good as ever. Probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year. And this team's awesome. Like the defense is awesome. They're clearly gunning for the first spot here. They're playing every game. Nobody's sitting. They look incredible. But then the Thunder roster, I just absolutely love it. It's like I think just like the mix of like Chet, who's playing at an incredible level and would be rookie of the year pretty much any year that doesn't have Wembanyama also be drafted. And then also like SGA is awesome. J Dub's been incredible for them. So like that's a tough team to bet against. And then the Nuggets have been amazing, but like weirdly I could see them not getting the top spot because I think they have been a little bit more willing to rest their players down the stretch here. I think they're um, definitely prioritizing their players' health and freshness for the playoffs rather than like getting a top seed. because I've seen Jamal Murray sit a couple of games now. I see MPJ's like sometimes like probable, questionable. Jokic sat a game the other week. So they might be more willing um to lose games, but like they're still the Nuggets. Like they could still just win out and take the first seed anyway. So I don't really know. Also, really tough to rank these teams, but they're all super good. Like the top of the West is like so tight right now. It's really cool to see these young teams like pushing up to the top of the standings with like the Wolves and the Thunder, who have been very bad for like a very long time at this point. So nice to see these franchises revitalized.
Yeah, great point. I think that the Nuggets are more comfortable, wherever they land, they're very confident about being the champions, and I
Yeah.
think young teams are gonna gun for that first seed. So,
It's
um,
weird though, because I think it's a little dangerous though, because like looking at the standings, I think the 1 and 2 seeds are super desirable right now. Because if you're the 1 seed, it's like you're probably gonna get the Kings, which is a matchup I like. Like the Kings are a good team, but I don't think they really have much of a chance against teams like the Thunder, Wolves, or Nuggets. And like 7th seed is the Suns, dangerous, but like they're always hurt. Like I feel like Bradley Beal hasn't played since being traded to the Suns. But then like the 6th seed is like dangerous. Like, do you want to go against like Kyrie and Luca in the first round? Like, I don't think so. And the Mavs have looked really good since the trades they made at the deadline. They've been moving up the standings. They're only a game behind the Pelicans now, 2 games behind the Clippers. So not even out of the question they could move up more and kind of get out of that 6th spot and be less of a threat. But I don't know. I wouldn't really want to be on the 3rd seed right now. You're kind of setting yourself up for a tough round 1 matchup.
yeah, you could also end up facing the Pelicans, and just the way Zion's been looking.
I love the Pelicans. The Pelicans are incredible.
I see the vision now, and I don't know, you were very hot on the Pelicans, and I think the reason I wasn't was just I did not think it was unfathomable that Zion and Brandon Ingram could play more than like 50 games, and they have.
Yeah. And
And
and now notably Brandon Ingram is hurt, which kind of sucks. But the
he should
Pelicans
be.
have still been good without him because they just have so much talent. It's like it just meant McCollum steps up again and starts scoring more. They've got Trey Murphy back, who's a little bit of just like a Brandon Ingram light. So when Ingram goes down, it's like you just slide in Trey Murphy and he plays incredible. Herb Jones has been awesome. And I think where things really changed, it's like although Valanciunas has been really good this year, after the All-Star break, they started playing Valanciunas a lot less and doing a lot more Zion Williamson at center. And that's really just like broken the league because he's just been so good. Even at like, I think he's like 6'7", 6'8", but he's just so explosive that he can pretty much guard any center, get rebounds over anybody. They've been doing a lot more point Zion, and he's just been balling out, showing us like flashes of what he was in his first and second year. So that team's really scary. Like I think not only has like Zion been so good, but I think they're so deep that they can give anybody a run for their money in the playoffs. I'm super excited to see them play.
And I think Ingram is expected to be back in the next couple weeks towards the end of the
Yes.
regular season. So, but yeah, Zion, I think he's averaging like 27 points over the last 10, and in such a spectacular way. So yeah, healthy Pelicans, man, that's a deep team, and I agree that um, you don't want to be the 3rd seed in the West. Um, that being said, though, I do think like the Kings could give the Wolves a run for their money, or the Suns could, the Suns and Kings are extremely good 7th and 8th seeds. If
There are no easy matchups in the West. Like regardless, like you're getting a bad draw. It's not like the East where you might get blessed with kind of like a lesser playoff team. Like I think anyone would love to play like the Pacers right now, for example, in the East, but there isn't a team like that in the West right now. It's like regardless that you're getting a really hard matchup, I think there's probably going to be at least like one upset that happens in the first round of the Western playoffs. So it's kind of just like figuring out like which team is um the most likely to do that and try to avoid them.
the play-in in the West is going to be crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
Warriors or Rockets, and then the Lakers in the mix, the Suns, Kings. Gonna be crazy. It's a total toss up, and whoever comes out of it is probably gonna give the Wolves or whoever's that top seed a run for their money. The
Yeah,
Wolves look so good
oh
though.
yeah. What I was saying is like this feels like the first year where like the play-in might actually mean something. Because it feels like in the past that like the play-in has kind of just been like a little bit of a joke where it's like none of the teams in the play-in actually have a chance of like changing the seeding at all. But like this year we got like some really interesting teams in the play-in that could definitely shake things up a little bit, especially in the West. Because like if the Rockets or the Warriors Lakers like squeak into that eighth seed, like that's a tough matchup. And like although like the Lakers have been like not great this year, like Anthony Davis against Gobert would be a super interesting matchup. Like I think Lakers Wolves would be a really interesting series. I wouldn't really know who to pick there.
Yeah, and I mean the Lakers made what, the Western Conference Finals last year out of the play-in tournament. So
Yeah.
who's to say they can't do it again?
Yeah, D'Lo revenge matchup. D'Lo's been absolutely electric since All-Star break. I don't know exactly what his stats have been, but he's been playing at like a near All-Star level. He has been super good. So I don't know. I weirdly like, I think the Lakers are ending like exactly where we expected they would be this offseason. We were lower than consensus on the Lakers, and correctly so, but I still think it's a really interesting team that can give anybody a run for their money in the playoffs.
In my mind, out of those top three in the West, the Thunder I think are the ones that I'm most unsure about, and could see them being upset. Just and they've constantly surpassed all my expectations and what I kind of set out for them. I knew they were going to be a surprise team this year and play far better than expected. And SGA is fucking incredible, but I still kind of question the depth and the experience of that team. And despite the Timberwolves also being a young team, I just see them as kind of better pieces, some veteran pieces mixed in with just a superstar in Ant, and a pairing in Gobert that just makes so much sense to me.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. The Wolves are different, where it's like they're a young team with Ant, but it's like they do have these like amazing battle tested veterans, like with like Mike Conley. Gobert is like, he's played in the playoffs for so long now. Like he is a true playoff veteran. Cat's not really a playoff veteran, but like at this point, like he's been in the league for probably like 8 or 9 years. Like he's a true veteran. He's played for a while. So I do think that team feels a little more ready to make a playoff run than the Thunder, which is a team where like a lot of them would be their first like true playoff appearance. So it would be easier to see the Thunder kind of getting cold feet or not really used to the intensity of the playoffs where defense steps up in a big way. So I think you're probably right to say they're the most volatile to lose early in the playoffs, but they've still been really good. So like it's tough to, bet on them losing, but yeah, they've been awesome. It's crazy to think that they're in contention for the first seed because we were hot on the Thunder, but I don't think either of us foresaw them potentially being the first seed already.
yeah, and they still confuse me, but again, they continue to outdo any expectations I have for them. Because Giddy is still kind of like not getting the minutes. Lou Dort's been playing like out of his mind, and they have these like weird pieces and Isaiah Joe and Jalen Williams who's now surging. So I don't know. They
Yeah.
they confuse me a bit.
Yeah, and understandably, I think they'll kind of get a feel for their roster a bit more in the playoffs. And then this offseason, they might just like tinker it a little bit and make one or two moves that kind of positions the roster correctly to be ready to win now. So maybe something like, maybe they trade Josh Giddey to like a rebuilding team, get back like a solid veteran small forward or something like that to slot into that lineup. And all of a sudden, like that would make a ton of sense for them. So they might still need one more year to finalize their roster, but they're so good that like I don't know. Like they might still just have an insane playoff run.
Man, and those middle teams in the West, the Clippers, the Pelicans, the Mavericks, they feel so dangerous with the guys leading those teams, and they have good
Yeah,
depth around
the
them.
the the top end talent is like ridiculous in the West because it's like fourth seed is like you got James Harden, Paul George, Kawhi. Nobody wants to play them in the first round. Pelicans have Zion, who's absolutely rolling right now. Mavs, you've got Kyrie and Luca, and then even Suns, it's like D Book and Durant. It's like having to play any of those teams in the first round sucks. Like when you get the first seed, it's like you kind of expect to play more of like a middle of the pack team, and like you're not getting that anywhere in the West.
Yeah, man. I'm very hot on the Clippers, I will say. I think that this recent stretch, post All-Star, they've been pretty abysmal, but they've managed to stay afloat. They were kind of a top three seed before then, and they've fallen obviously now. I think they're like sixth, or well, I
I
guess
see,
they're
I see, I
fourth.
see them at fourth right now. It's super
Yeah.
close. I think they went down. I think they went back up. Like anywhere between like 4 and 6 right now, really even seven. Like any of those teams can finish anywhere at this point because like the Clippers are only like one game in front of the Pelicans, two in front of the Mavs, three in front of the Suns. So anything can happen. I don't really know where these teams are gonna fall when the final standings are done.
But yeah, God willing, Kawhi and Paul George stay healthy. I think that team is so scary with
Yeah.
how switchable they are on defense. They they have great size and a healthy Kawhi in the playoffs, I think is truly one of the scariest things in the league. So I'm big on the Clippers as kind of a dark horse, like make it out of the West team. And so
Yeah, and this is gonna be a really important playoff run for them because they're working on like the Paul George extension right now. As of now, it's going nowhere. So like essentially Paul George wants a max extension. Clippers don't want to offer it. So I think this playoff run will kind of give them clarity as to whether or not Paul George gets it. And if he doesn't, like maybe this is their last chance with this team. Like maybe it's possible that like Paul George is on another team next offseason, which would be crazy. So I feel like they really have to have a good season here to solidify what they're doing in LA, and like kind of prove that the formula is working and worth investing in for a couple more years.
yeah, no, that's definitely something that's going to be looming. Did Kawhi get the extension?
Yeah,
He did.
yeah, Kawhi's locked up and like James Harden's still under contract. I think regardless, like they love like the Kawhi James Harden duo. I think like that's here to stay. I think the big question though is like, does Paul George stay a part of it? And he is kind of like the de facto third guy now with James Harden in the mix. So maybe the Clippers would be okay letting him go. I don't think they should. I don't think they want to, but I think there is, um, just a question about the dollar signs there.
Yeah. The Suns have also been super interesting and kind of a disappointing team, obviously, overall on the season. And obviously, Beal, who could have guessed, has just not been a great fit.
Such a bad trade.
Their offense has been kind of a head scratcher, and Zach Lowe touched on how they play through Nurkic a lot, which
Love Nurk. He was great for me in fantasy this year.
yeah, no, he without a doubt has been having an awesome season because of how much they play through him on offense, but it almost feels like kind of a double-edged sword where they kind of feel forced to play through him because if they don't play through him, he's kind of just sitting in the paint or like not as involved. Um, and I don't know, it feels like their offense is kind of, Book, take your turn, KD, take your turn. Um, and yeah, I'm
Yeah,
super
yeah,
optimistic.
you're very right that they don't really have a super cohesive offense. And especially with like Beal in the mix, who's also just like another ISO scorer. It's like, I don't know. It's like a very similar recipe to what they had in Brooklyn, just like the parts aren't as good though. Because like in Brooklyn, they at least had Claxton, who was like this very true like pick and roll athletic center, gets blocks. And then just like obviously like Kyrie and Harden is a better backcourt than like Book and Beal. So I don't know. It does feel like a little bit like just like a downgraded Nets team at the moment. And a lot of like their signings from the offseason like haven't gone well. Like everyone's like, oh, they got these like value contracts with like Eubanks and like Keita Bates Diop. And it's like, no, these guys like aren't good. They've never been good. Like I don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So they really just don't have any talented pieces outside of a KD Book and like Nurk to an extent. So yeah, I don't love the roster construction. Um, I don't.
Grayson
I,
Allen's
I
awesome.
Grayson Allen's been really good. I will give him that. Like he's been awesome, signing, incredible 3-point shooter. His efficiency's been like ridiculous this year. He's like well over 40% from three. So that was actually awesome for them. He's been incredible. But like weirdly, I don't see them as like a super true threat. But if they get the Thunder in the first round, though, like all of a sudden, like I think they do have a chance to get out of it. But I don't think they would against a team like the Wolves or the Nuggets.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes without saying. They're kind of like the Mavericks where they're so talented in their top two guys that any series can swing their way. Um,
Yeah.
but there are definitely questions with how that offense runs and the depth and Nurkic as your defensive center, I mean, he kind of drops every time and he's not very switchable. So um I don't know. I feel like they should have kind of experimented more with Bol, but I get that he's kind of I don't know. He has his downfalls and he's lazy on defense it seems and he kind of is always biting on shit, but like he's so
Yeah.
versatile that I think they should have really tried making it work with him more throughout the year instead of giving like Nurkic, all the minutes all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Bull has like shown a couple of flashes. I don't know if I'm like sold on him being the Suns' savior or anything like that, but like I think he's interesting and like yeah, he has played for them. He has played well for them this season. It all kind of comes back to the Aiden trade. Like I kind of just wish they still had DeAndre Aiden. Like I know like trading him gave them more flexibility to sign Spiel this offseason, but like that didn't do a ton for them anyway. Aiden has not been good this year, but he still like shows flashes, and the Trailblazers are so bad that I don't really know if I can put too much stock into his play over there. But he's had a decent stretch, and he still is like a decently switchable big, solid defender as he's proved in the playoffs before. Decent enough score in the paint. Like I don't think he's incredible, but I think he would suit this team a lot better than Nurkic right now. And I know some bridges were burned, but I wish they just gave like a little more time just like see if this new look Suns could work with him.
Yeah, no, I
Because
agree.
he never got to play with KD, right?
No, I think he did last year. No,
Yeah. Did he? He probably
why
did.
was KD hurt?
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're right. I think they did play together a little bit, but I don't
Yeah,
know. I just wish they gave it a little bit more time.
I know. I'm trying to remember what happened with the Suns last year in the playoffs. Let's do a little bit of research. I want to say they lost to the Clippers, but that also just sounds 2022 playoffs. Great podcasting, great podcasting.
Yeah, this is where we Google everything. Oh, is it the Mavs they lost to?
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they lost in 7 to the Mavs, which makes sense. And then they blew up the Aiden experiment after that.
Wait, no. I think we're looking at the year before.
Oh yeah, I did 2022. That's on me.
Oh, yeah, they just got destroyed by the Nuggets.
Oh yeah, it's the Nuggets though. Like, come on.
Right. Yeah, no, they beat the Clippers in 5 games.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, some weird moves have been made by the Suns, and I don't know about them. Yeah, shipping out Aiden and bringing in Beal, I just don't think was the answer for them. So, well, we'll kind of see how they do in the playoffs this year. I think it'll be a team to watch. Because yeah, if the playoffs don't go well this year, I don't really know what they do. They've definitely put themselves in a bit of a pickle. And Beal has like a no trade clause and a max contract. Like, like if he doesn't do anything for them, like they've just like absolutely fucked themselves with this roster.
Yeah, and from the moment that that went through, we were super critical and baffled by that addition. So, but to
Yeah, and I
recap,
think
no,
oh
go
yeah,
for
yeah. No, yeah, I was just gonna agree. I was like, yeah, I think that was kind of consensus too. Like I think everybody was pretty low on that Bradley Beal trade. And I'd been low on Beal for like a couple of years from there where I was like, I don't see it.
I was just gonna say to recap, the West is crazy, and overall, I don't have a clue what's gonna happen, but um, the Nuggets are still my favorites, and for me, like Clippers, Pelicans are dark horses for sure, and I think the Wolves and Thunder, particularly the Thunder, with kind of their lack of experience, are not as strong of a top seed as we're used to, but. That being said, I mean, SGA is one of the best players in this league, and Chet, Mr. Abraham Lincoln. I've seen people call Wemby
So
John
funny.
Booth.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
He's the Abraham Lincoln killer. Chet,
Oh
um,
my God.
Mavericks, dark horses. Not super hot on the Suns, but they're kind of a lower seed anyway. So, do you have
Yeah,
a hot take?
I think you nailed it well. Where it's like I think the Nuggets are like the clear favorites. You know, obviously they won it last year. Jokic still kind of feels like he's the best player in the league, so that feels like the team to ride with and kind of pick to be the favorite. And yeah, I think you nailed it with like Clippers and Pelicans being these super spicy teams. I think Pelicans spicier. Like I would love for them to match up at 4 or 5 in the first round. I think I would take the Pelicans there.
I'm
Just
taking
because
the
the Pelicans are my team, and I just love younger teams. I feel like I always bet on the younger team whenever it feels like it's gonna be like a close playoff matchup. So I think that'd be super interesting. And then I don't think I have any hot takes, but like I'm just super interested to see what happens with the Rockets as we alluded to. Because I would do anything to see them like slide into the 8th seed. Because if they were 8th seed against Wolves, like I don't know what I would do there. Like I think that would be fascinating.
I would think the Wolves would win in at least 6, if not
I'm
5.
too hot on the Rockets. I'd probably take the Rockets just for the content.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Ant would probably stop Jalen Green from putting up 40, but yeah, no, that would be electric. And yeah, do you want to touch on the East real quick? I mean, it's much more solidified in the seeding. We know who are the top 10 teams. Um,
Yeah, yeah. There is like one really interesting storyline I'm watching right now in the East that I think is going to be fascinating comes playoffs, but like probably potentially very bad for the Celtics because like what I'm seeing right now is like the Sixers have slid to the eighth seed where it kind of looks like they're going to stay. It feels like the teams in the play-in are too far behind at this point to catch up and take the eighth seed. But they've been so bad without Embiid that I don't think they have a chance of passing teams like the Pacers and the Heat. So it feels like the Sixers are going to be locked into that eighth seed unless there's a play-in miracle. And if they hold on to the eighth seed, and I heard Embiid might come back early April. So if like the Sixers get back Embiid and they're the eighth seed and the Celtics play Sixers with Embiid in the first round, that would just suck. Because that would probably be the hardest first round matchup for the Celtics, even though they have the first seed. So I think it's really interesting. I hope that doesn't happen, but I kind of feel like that's what's going to happen. And that would be a ridiculous first round playoff matchup. Because like of course, like when the Sixers had Embiid, like they were potentially the second best team in the East. So all of a sudden it feels like a matchup that should have been like an Eastern Conference Finals ends up being a first round matchup, and it'd be a six series, but like there would be like a decent chance the Celtics could lose in the first round as like by far the best team in the East.
Yeah, I weirdly hadn't considered that, but yeah, the Sixers and the Celtics are definitely probably locked into that first and eighth seed. They could lose in the play in the Sixers, but if you know Embiid is back, that's for sure the best team in the play in. Um, yeah, there's kind of a toss up with 5, 6, and 7 between the Magic, Pacers, and Heat. The Pacers have kind of dropped off. The Magic are very up and down all season, but yeah,
Yeah, those teams are a little forgettable for me. Like I think like Magic and Pacers will be like pretty easy outs in the first round for teams like the Bucks should have no problems with like well if the Bucks have the Heat like I don't know they've historically had issues with them. But I think like the Knicks would take care of business with the Magic fairly easily.
agreed.
Um, I think Cavs would have no problem with the Pacers. They're fun, but it feels like Halliburton has just like slowed down since All-Star break after dealing with a couple of injuries. So and like things always get a little bit weird when you add someone like Siakam in the middle of the season. Like I feel like it's tough to make like a deep run after making a move that big. Sometimes it takes an off season to really put things together. So those teams I don't find like super intimidating in the playoffs. I think some of the more interesting matchups probably be like Celtics Sixers, Bucks Heat, and then kind of see where things go from there in the second round.
Yeah, yeah. The Pacers have been interesting, and it doesn't seem like a great fit so far. But like you said, you have to give it a bit of time. But the astrology account I follow on Twitter says that Siakam and Halliburton are not a great astrological pairing.
Ooh, that is an issue.
So I'm not super hot on that, but
Yeah, but also like the Cavs look a little volatile right now. Like I'm looking at them, they're like 4-6 in their last 10. Um, I still like really like the roster, but I don't know. They just like they're a very streaky team, so I still think they could potentially lose in the first round just because I just feel like they haven't been like consistently amazing this year. Like they had like their like 15 game win streak early on after playing poorly, and now they're losing more games. Mitchell's dealt with some injuries, Garland's dealt with some injuries, Mobley's had some injuries, so we'll kind of see if everything like meshes together nicely come playoffs, or if it feels like the team just isn't really sticky enough after having so many people in and out during the season.
do we know when Trey Young's supposed to come back?
I
Because
believe he's already officially ruled out for the season, so I think there's no chance he comes back.
I think the Hawks could be kind of an interesting play in kind of
They they've
surprise.
been they've yeah, they've been really good recently. Like DeJounte's like playing like Spurs DeJounte now that he gets to run the show. Like he's been absolutely incredible. They beat the Celtics twice recently, which I partially think may have been strategic losses from the Celtics to try to get the Hawks higher up in the play in and maybe get them to take the eighth seed. Because
Mm.
obviously, like as a Celtics fan, I would much rather play the Hawks than the Sixers with Embiid. So who knows? Maybe that's a thing. Probably not. But
Probably not.
yeah, they've been really interesting. And like Jalen Johnson's like a clear star. Like I think he's already um, taken that leap and like could potentially be an all-star come next year.
Yeah, and the Celtics, they didn't give us too much trouble, but I mean, at the end of the day, the series went to I think 6 games last year, and you see how DeJounte is such a dog and plays hard on both ends. So, if I could see them coming out of the play-in, um, if the Sixers, if Embiid's not, at 100%, I could kind of see that being a disappointing play-in for the Sixers, but. Um, I would expect, yeah, the Sixers and Heat to come out if Embiid's healthy. The Heat are kind of obviously the dark horse after, making the finals last year and adding Terry Rozier.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
also think the Knicks are just, I'm very hot on the Knicks, and I could kind of see them being an Eastern Conference Finals dark horse, and I could see kind of the
Yeah.
Bucks falling.
The Knicks like backcourt is so electric between like Brunson, DiVincenzo, and Hart. Like all of them have been like absolute firecrackers since All-Star break. Like DiVincenzo is like all of a sudden one of like the best like high volume shooters in the league. OG's hurt right now, and literally Tibbs has been playing Josh Hart the entire game. Like there was a game last week where literally Josh Hart played all 48 minutes for them, and he's like this like weird like triple double threat now where it feels like every game he's getting like 18 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists. And obviously like Brunson's like one of the best scorers in the league and potential, you know, obviously like he's not quite in like the top tier of MVP candidates, but I think he's in that second tier. He's just been amazing. So I think the Knicks are awesome. I think they'll take care of business in the first round, and they would be a really interesting second round matchup for the Celtics, if the Celtics can get through their round one matchup.
Yeah, I like their big man rotation too. I think like Precious Achua was a nice addition who plays hard. Maybe with Mitchell Robinson back in the mix, he'll kind of, wane out of the rotation. But Isaiah Hartenstein, I'm not just saying this because I rostered him in fantasy. He's a great defensive big man, surprisingly. Like he will get a few steals, a few blocks. I think he has one of the highest defensive ratings amongst like big men in the league in the past few months. He's very unassuming, but um, I really like him as the starting center. I've never been a big Mitchell Robinson guy, um, but like you said, they have so many pieces. I owe you an apology with Dante DiVincenzo. I mean, I think he hit like 11 threes the other night.
He's so cold. He's so cold. He is incredible.
And the Villanova, they're Villanova, right? I always get Villanova confused with.
Yeah, yeah. So Brunson, DiVincenzo, and Josh Hart all played on the same Villanova championship team, which is
Right.
insane. The only player they're missing right now is Mikhail, who actually we probably should have briefly touched on when we talked about Rockets, because it's apparently at the deadline they offered Jalen Green and some of the Nets picks back for Mikhail Bridges. And the Nets said no, which is like insane. Because obviously now Jalen Green alone is like far more valuable than Mikhail Bridges. And they also would have had their picks back to be able to actually, get first round rookies with their picks, whereas now they're bad for nothing. So the Nets suck. I think they're like one of the worst run franchises now officially. If it was not clear from their very bad trades in the past.
Yeah, and kind of Rockets, why would you offer that? But it,
Yeah, terrible offer for the Rockets. I don't know what they're thinking.
yeah, man, it felt like enough of a sample size, like through half of the season, to realize that Mikal Bridges, as good of a player as he is not, a first option kind of guy. And yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
take,
probably like a solid third option maybe.
right. So you
Yeah.
got to take the return there and get your picks back. Maybe not a bad idea, guys. So
Even
yeah,
with even without Green, I think they should have done it. I think they could have got like 3 or 4 of their picks back straight up for McHale, like done deal. And if you could have got Jalen Green on top of that, like that's just an absolutely absurd return. So yeah, they fucked up. They fucked up. That was bad.
but yeah, no, the Knicks I'm very hot on. That's kind of my dark horse out of the East. The Heat too. I just love.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right where it's like, obviously Celtics are favorites. Us as Celtics fans, like even if that wasn't the case, we would say it, but I think that's pretty clear. And the Bucks are still like really good. They have the second seeds. Like Bucks are definitely like a contender. And then I think Knicks are probably that third contender where they look really good and they're just like so dangerous. They can beat anybody.
The Bucks, I obviously recognize that talent, and I think they have a very good chance of coming out of the East, the second best chance after the Celtics, I would say. But I think that upset factor is still there,
For
especially
sure.
now
For
with
sure.
Doc Rivers at the helm of that ship. Um, I could see it getting kind of ugly. I think that's a very real possibility. I could see them, strolling into the Eastern Conference Finals, but I could also see it being a lot more, a lot more turbulence on their way there.
Yeah, and if I got the Heat again, who upset them in the first round recently, they would really have to like exercise some demons there. That's proven to be a really tough matchup for them. Maybe Lillard helps them out in that kind of matchup, but I don't know. They definitely are a team that I could see getting out early. But also, like if Giannis is red hot, they're also a team that probably could just end up in the finals, and we'd be like, yeah, like Giannis is ridiculous, insane. We haven't talked about him more in the MVP conversation. He's still one of the best players in the league, easily top five.
Yeah, and Lillard still looks like Lillard. Um, but I don't know. If Doc Rivers is your head coach, I expect some sort of turmoil and turbulence and
Naturally. Yeah, and I have one more thing to touch on with the Knicks that we haven't brought up yet, and that's the fact
please.
that they've been so good without Julius Randle. I think they just need to do anything they can to get rid of Julius Randle
Right.
this offseason. Like my biggest concern for them would be Julius Randle comes back and is terrible for them in the playoffs, takes away touches from guys who are better like Brunson. I think he'd rather DiVincenzo shooting over him and probably even Josh Hart. Like I think Josh Hart should just take over that Julius Randle role and they would be better. So I think they need to try to get off him as soon as they can, but it's gonna be hard to do because I don't think anybody wants Julius Randle.
Yeah, no, great point. Yeah, because they just look like such a cohesive team as of right now with so many great pieces and is Julius Randle, when's he supposed to come back? He's not
Yeah,
out.
I'm about to check. Let's see.
I think
Apparently, like reports been very vague on him, and they're not really giving a return date. Sounds like he's still like week to week right now, so it's potentially could miss time in the playoffs, which I think might actually be advantageous for the Knicks. Because they move the ball so well. It's like the ball like moves everywhere on offense, and it's like they've got all these unselfish players with like Brunson, Hart, DiVincenzo, who all also played together on Villanova, as we mentioned, which was like super cool. But then you put Randall in there, who it's like the ball just tends to stick in his hands. He likes to take bad shots. He really likes his ISOs on the perimeter. So I just don't think that would be advantageous for an offense that has been so red hot. So we'll see with that one. That would be I don't know. That'd be really interesting if they have to try to slot him back into the starting lineup in the playoffs.
mini shout out to McBride. I forget his first name, but he's kind of been awesome too. I don't know where he found the minutes in the rotation, but
Yeah, is it James McBride? Is that his name?
something like that.
Miles McBride. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Miles.
Miles McBride's but yeah, awesome shooter and like pretty good like spark plug off the bench. Like he's kind of he's not like quickly level, but I think they've kind of found a new sixth man in him with quickly gone.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Um Raptors have been doing an amazing tank job. Just a mini shout out as we kind of wrap up here. They've been on like a 11 game losing streak, so
Very impressive.
very
Very
impressive.
impressive. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
No one's playing for them right now, but I still like the Raptors. Though. I still like love the moves they made to like grab Barrett and quickly at the deadline. Um, Condolences to RJ Barrett. I love RJ Barrett. It's like very sad to hear about the news with him, but at this point I'd be like, yeah, take off the rest of the year, man. We're not trying to win anyway. Just hang out with your family. Come back again next year. Let's do this thing better.
yeah, no, that's a very sad situation, and I do like RJ Barrett too, and I appreciate your love for him as you have rostered him pretty consistently, I think, over the past since he's been drafted.
Yeah, he was so good this year too after he got traded to the Raptors. Like he's incredible. So I'm super excited to watch him play a full season with the Raptors next year. I think we won't spend too much time on here. We got to wrap this up in a second, but I think Barnes Barrett quickly is gonna be really interesting for them.
Yeah. All right. Well, any last notes? This has been a kind of a state of the league, state of the union type of episode, and it feels good to be back in the swing. I'm watching more basketball now. I took my detox. I take fantasy maybe a bit too seriously. So kind of the past few weeks I've just kind of detoxed, but now I'm back. I feel like in the swing of things, watching highlights and I'm ready to get some episodes out as the playoffs start. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm fired up right now. There should be tons of good storylines right now as the standings shift. With only about 10 games left in the season, so we'll have tons to talk about. And then when playoffs come around, we'll talk a lot about the play-in tournament, playoffs themselves, how we think first round matchups are going to shake out. So tons of content to come. Thank you all for tuning in.
Yes.
And yeah, we'll see you all next time. Make sure to like and subscribe, of course.
God bless, guys. Thank you.